All right, so finally we're going to talk about monopolistic, or not finally, but we're going to try to breeze through these last three topics because I'm going a little bit over. So monopolistic competition, okay, it's kind of like a hybrid between perfect competition and monopoly. In monopolistic competition, firms retain some sort of market power, so they have a little bit of an ability to change their price. Their products are slightly differentiated, so it's not going to be all apples are the same. It's going to be this brand of jeans is different than this brand of jeans. This brand of soda is different from this brand of soda, that kind of thing. Okay. Low barriers to entry, right? It's not that hard to make a set of jeans. You just need a sewing machine. It's not that hard to make a soda. You just need a couple ingredients. Um, so, any like ShopRite brand can create their own soda, enter the market very easily. And, there's no real barrier there, but they're going to be differentiated in monopolistic competition by price, maybe by brand name, maybe by quality a little bit. So each product is a little bit different than the corresponding product. Okay. This puts a downward pressure on price. So because anyone can enter the market, there's going to be in the long term essentially no profits besides normal profits, but individual firms kind of control their short run profit a little bit. Okay, so in the short run, it almost looks like the monopolist problem, right? So they have what do you call it? The ability to they have like the firm doesn't have a perfectly elastic demand, so they have a normal marginal revenue curve here. So this looks to me almost indistinguishable from this graph here. Okay, right? So when marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that's going to be your optimal quantity. You're going to go up to the demand curve, and that'll be where your price is set. And then your profit's going to be your price minus your average total cost times your quantity. So firms make profit in the short run. Okay. In the long run, what happens is the more firms enter, this will drag the demand curve down, which will also drag your your marginal revenue curve down. Okay. So notice the demand curve is shifting inwards, going from short run to long run, because in the short run, you have Pepsi, Coca-Cola. In the long run, you have Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pibb, or Mr. Pibb, Dr. Pepper, whatever. For Pepsi to have economic profits, essentially they need to be so differentiated that they're in like a market of their own. But in realistic terms, they're not going to be able to set their price double what Mr. Pibb is setting their price at, right? There's going to be downward pressure on price from entrants. Okay. It's not going to be always the case that it's going to be like no long-term profits. Like if you're sufficiently differentiated, you can see a little bit of profit. Like you'll have a little bit of price control. Like stylistic for Econ 1 terms, monopolistically competitive markets are defined by long-term no profits because of the downward price pressure from entry. And if a firm does have profits, it's because they're not in true monopolistic competition. But that's stylistic like definitions, right? Like in the real world, there's no such thing as monopolistic competition. There's no such thing as pure competition. Monopoly is actually a thing, but in the real world, there's a muddying of the waters between what's considered monopolistic competition versus perfect competition versus oligopoly. Okay, it's not always so cut and dry. Okay, some firms exhibit monopolistically competitive characteristics, and some firms or some industries exhibit monopolistically competitive characteristics, even though there's only two firms in it. Some firms exhibit um, oligopolistic oligopolistic tendencies, even though there's many firms in it that would lead you to believe that it's a monopolistically competitive industry. The real world's muddier than Econ 1, for sure. But um, for the standard monopolistically competitive market, demand will shift in to the point at which your price is equal to your average cost, such that profits are equal to zero. And at this point, the market is in its long run environment, normal profit. Okay. Okay. So normal profit in the long run, but there's still deadweight loss. Okay, because your price is going to be greater than your marginal cost. So if you're looking at the deadweight loss, right? So here's your marginal cost. Here's your price, right? There's people who are willing to pay the so people are willing to pay. People are willing to pay for the good, who don't have the opportunity to pay for it. So this is your willingness to pay. The demand curve is your marginal cost. So in the real, like not the real world, but in society, you'd want to find a way to get the people the good, and you can, like, by technically forcing the industry to do that, but obviously that's not how things work. So you'd want the firms to produce until the marginal cost is equal to the willingness to pay, but that doesn't happen. Okay, so because there's a price greater than your marginal cost at the equilibrium quantity, this is not allocatively efficient. Okay, in the long run, the product does not minimize your average total cost. Okay, so your minimum average total cost will be here, right? Sorry. Your minimum average total cost would be here, where your marginal cost equals your average cost, average total cost. So this is the point at which average total cost is minimized when they cross, and this would be the most efficient production point, right? So you'd want the quantity to be at this point, and you'd want the price to be over here in the long run. But unfortunately, because the marginal revenue lies below the price curve, that's not going to be the case. So in like an ideal setting, your marginal revenue would intersect here, but it does not. Okay. So that is, I did the wrong thing there. That is productively inefficient in that the lowest cost producer is not making the good. Okay, there's still ways to produce at a lower cost. Okay. But monopolistically competitive industries or firms might compete in multiple ways. They might change their how the goods are. So Starbucks notoriously didn't have bagels or donuts in their, or they have bagels. They didn't have donuts in their stores because they didn't want to be seen like Dunkin' Donuts. So even though the coffee is essentially roasted to hell, like really really burnt coffee, same kind of model as Dunkin' Donuts, because they didn't have actual donuts in their store, they were perceived as being higher quality. It's just branding differentiation right there. Okay, they might compete in advertising. Starbucks will have different commercials than Dunkin' Donuts would. Or Dunkin' Donuts and Starbucks will both have commercials, whereas Krispy Kreme might not have commercials. Okay, there's something to be said about using expenses for advertising too, in terms of efficiency. So that's probably not very efficient, though it might induce higher demand. Okay. They might differentiate in terms of quality. So you might think that Starbucks coffee, and I don't know, I'm not a coffee snob, but you might think that Starbucks coffee is better than Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and La Colombe coffee is better than both of theirs. Okay. They might differentiate in price. So, or they might compete in price rather. Um, so if you know that a firm is like having market share, you might lower your price just a little bit in order to capture that. Uh, so individual firms might compete in price in order to get higher quantity, increasing their revenue. But in the long run, everything's going to tend towards this graph here. Okay.